Imagine, imagine getting a call, the one you've been waiting for years, the one I'm talking about. The news that your missing child has been found.
Oh, yeah.
The relief, the joy.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
now imagine finding out it's all a lie.
Wow.
That's exactly what happened in this really crazy case of Nicholas Barclay.
Yeah. This is
It's unbelievable.
this is a story that really highlights a parent's worst nightmare. Nicholas was a 13-year-old boy who just vanished from San Antonio, Texas back in 1994. Just disappeared.
Yeah, and left a family obviously just shattered, completely devastated.
Of course.
So 3 years go by, and there's just agonizing silence.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then out of the blue, a call from Spain brings this glimmer of hope.
A lost boy.
Yeah, they thought it was him.
Yeah, and this is where the story takes a very unsettling turn.
Right.
The boy who returned wasn't Nicholas.
Oh, wow.
He was a 23-year-old French con man named Frédéric Bourdin.
Oh, my gosh.
A master manipulator with a history of impersonating missing children.
It sounds unbelievable.
It really has.
But the details of how he managed to deceive the family and even authorities
Right.
for such a long time
Yeah.
is really going to leave you questioning everything. So
Yeah.
let's go back to the beginning
Okay.
and piece together this really complex puzzle.
Yeah, before we get into Frederick's web of deception, it's crucial to understand what happened when Nicholas disappeared.
Good.
On June 10th, 1994, Nicholas left for a basketball game in his San Antonio neighborhood.
And never came home.
Never returned home.
Now, I read that the initial investigation was complicated by the fact that Nicholas had a history of running away.
That's right. And there were also some reports of, minor troubles with the law,
Uh-huh.
and the family life was,
Not ideal.
to put it mildly, turbulent.
Okay.
Police had been called to the home numerous times.
Oh, wow.
Nicholas's half-brother Jason even claimed to have seen Nicholas after his disappearance, although police couldn't corroborate that story.
So then 3 years later, that call from Spain, a boy found wandering, disoriented, and claiming to have no memory of his past. Now, Nicholas's sister, Carrie, flew to Spain to make the identification.
Right.
And despite some clear differences in appearance, Carrie was adamant that this boy was her long-lost brother.
Wow.
I mean, you would think after all those years,
Yeah.
they would be absolutely certain.
Right, you would think so.
I mean, this is family.
Absolutely. But this is where the psychology of this case gets really interesting.
Okay.
It seems there were red flags right from the start.
Like what?
Nicholas was strangely withdrawn, constantly covering himself up with a hat, sunglasses, and a scarf.
Oh, really?
And then there was the French accent that he couldn't quite conceal.
Huh.
Yeah, he tried to explain this away,
As effects of the trauma.
Right, as a result of the trauma he had endured.
But an FBI agent, Nancy Fisher,
Yeah.
wasn't buying it.
No.
She was immediately suspicious,
Right.
noting that the boy's age just simply didn't match his appearance.
Yeah, and then there was the story Nicholas told. A chilling narrative of abduction by a military group involved in sex trafficking.
Wow.
He claimed to have endured horrific torture beatings, rapes, forced experimentation.
Oh, my goodness.
He even said they altered his eye color and forced him to speak different languages.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a tale that would break anyone's heart.
It is.
But if something sounds too good to be true,
Yeah.
it probably is.
Exactly.
And this is where cracks in the facade began to emerge.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a private investigator, Charlie Parker,
Okay.
was hired by a television show that was covering the case.
Oh, wow.
He started noticing inconsistencies
Okay.
in photographs of Nicholas before and after his disappearance.
Oh, really?
Particularly the shape of his ears.
It seems like such a small detail.
Yeah.
But it really,
It's amazing.
got the ball rolling, didn't it?
It got the ball rolling, absolutely. Parker's skepticism prompted the involvement of Dr. Bruce Perry,
Okay.
a renowned forensic psychologist.
And he-
Dr. Perry specializes in child trauma.
Okay.
And he found inconsistencies in Nicholas's behavior and language abilities that didn't align with the trauma he claimed to have experienced.
So all of this is adding up.
Yeah.
And yet the family resisted DNA testing.
Right.
Why would they do that? I mean, were they deliberately ignoring the truth?
Well, that's one of the most perplexing aspects of this case, and it leads us into a really interesting discussion about the psychology of denial.
Okay.
grief can be an incredibly powerful force,
Oh, right.
and it can really distort our perceptions.
Oh, yeah.
In this case, it's possible that the family's desperation to have Nicholas back,
Yeah.
coupled with the guilt over his disappearance,
Uh-huh.
led them to cling to this belief
Right.
that this young man was their son, despite all the evidence.
Because you're saying there's this psychological phenomenon at play here.
Yeah.
Something beyond, just wanting to believe.
Exactly. There's a cognitive bias
Oh.
called wishful thinking bias,
Interesting.
where we tend to believe things we want to be true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even when evidence suggests otherwise?
Yeah.
And when you add in the intense emotions of a missing child, it's easy to see how this bias could take hold.
So even though there were red flags,
Right.
even though experts were raising concerns,
Yeah.
the family's desire to believe overrode their rational judgment.
Seems that way.
And then there's Jason Nicholas's half-brother.
Right.
His behavior was always odd,
Yeah, around Nicholas, it was always odd.
almost as if he knew something wasn't right.
Yeah, like he knew something.
And then he dies
Yeah.
of a drug overdose just 2 months after Frederick was exposed.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if he was somehow involved
It does.
or if he knew something he was afraid to reveal.
Yeah. His death, unfortunately, leaves us with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But the timing is suspicious.
Yeah, so the truth did eventually come out, right?
It did.
How was Frederick's elaborate deception finally uncovered?
Well, the FBI, despite the family's resistance,
Yeah.
was determined to get to the bottom of things. Good for them.
Fingerprint analysis finally confirmed that Nicholas was indeed Frederick Gourdin,
Wow.
the con man.
And when confronted with this evidence, he had to confess.
He confessed to his charade.
It's one thing to impersonate someone for a short period,
Right.
but to maintain this deception for 5 months, living with his family, pretending to be their son,
Yeah.
is mind-boggling.
Incredible.
What could possibly motivate someone to do such a thing?
Some experts believe that Frederick may have suffered from a psychological condition called Munchausen syndrome by proxy,
Okay.
where an individual fabricates illness in another person, often a child, to gain attention and sympathy.
So in this case,
Right. In this case, Frederick wasn't just assuming an identity.
Yeah.
He was creating a narrative where he was the ultimate victim, a
Right.
survivor of this horrific abuse.
Right.
And this allowed him to manipulate the family's sympathy, avoid scrutiny, and gain a sense of control over his own life.
so it's like a twisted validation.
Yeah.
To create this web of lies, just to feel seen and cared for.
Exactly. And the more elaborate the lie,
Yeah.
the more attention and sympathy he received.
Right.
It's a tragic cycle, really fueled by this deep-seated need for connection and belonging.
But his story doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't.
What happened after the truth came out?
Well, he was arrested and deported back to France.
Okay.
But even after being exposed, Frederick continued to assume new identities,
Oh, wow.
often impersonating missing children.
Really?
He seemed to be drawn to this pattern of deception, unable to break free.
Almost like he was addicted
Yeah.
to the attention and the thrill of the correct.
That's a very astute observation. You see, for someone like Frederick, the act of deception itself may have become a way of coping with deeper psychological issues, a way of feeling a sense of power and control
Okay.
in a world where he felt powerless.
So can someone like that,
Right.
someone so deeply entrenched in deception,
Yeah,
ever truly change?
that's a good question.
He's claimed to have reformed,
Right.
settled down, started a family.
Yeah, but his past actions and even his own contradictory statements
Right.
leave room for doubt.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this case so disturbing.
Yeah.
Even after being exposed, Frederick's motivations remain a mystery. It's
Yeah.
like he was always playing a role, blurring the lines between reality and fabrication,
Right.
making it nearly impossible to decipher his true intentions.
And it makes you wonder about the family.
Yeah, right.
They were betrayed,
Yeah.
manipulated,
Totally.
and still left with no answers
Right.
about what really happened to Nicholas.
The trauma of a missing child is just unimaginable, but in this case, it was made even worse.
By the deception.
By the deception, the false hope, and the realization that they were used.
Yeah, and they were left to deal with this incredible pain
Right.
and these unanswered questions just haunting them.
Absolutely.
This whole story, it really gets under your skin.
It does.
The mystery, the manipulation, these questions about Nicholas's fate.
It reminds us that deception can take many forms.
Right.
And that even those closest to us can
Yeah.
be manipulated.
It really makes you stop and think,
It does.
could this happen to me?
Right. Could it happen to you?
What if someone I loved went missing?
Yeah.
And then years later, someone claiming to be them returned.
Right. How would you know for sure?
How could I know?
It's a haunting thought.
It is.
And there are no easy answers.
Right.
But maybe by understanding the psychology of deception, by being aware of our own biases,
Okay.
we can be more vigilant,
Yeah.
a little more discerning in our
Yeah.
interactions.
Okay, so what can we do?
Are there any red flags?
One thing to watch out for is inconsistencies in stories.
Yeah.
Even the most skilled liars slip up eventually.
Yeah.
Pay attention to details, physical changes, mannerisms, speech patterns,
Okay.
and most importantly, trust your gut instinct.
Oh, yeah.
If something feels off, don't dismiss it.
I like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like we need to become amateur detectives in our own lives.
Not quite that extreme,
Okay.
but a healthy dose of skepticism can be protective,
Right.
especially when emotions are high.
Yeah. And what about DNA testing?
DNA testing is readily available these days.
Oh, that's true.
It's the most reliable way to confirm identity.
Yeah.
And in a case like this, it could have saved everyone a lot of heartache.
It's the cautionary tale,
It is.
a stark reminder that deception can really lurk anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah.
But it's also a story about hope,
Right.
even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
The enduring power of hope.
Absolutely.
You know, it leaves us with a question that's unsettling and personal.
What's that?
Could you be fooled by someone pretending to be a loved one? What signs would tip you off?
Yeah.
It's something to think about.
It is.
Maybe even discuss with your family and friends.
Yeah, good idea.
Because as we've learned today, the truth can be more elusive than we think.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the bizarre and unsettling world of the Nicholas Barclay case.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a story that forces us to confront, these complexities of human behavior, the power of deception,
Right.
and the enduring search for truth.
Absolutely. And if his deep dive has sparked your curiosity,
Yeah?
we invite you to explore more of our episodes.
Yes.
Where we delve into all sorts of captivating topics.
Let's do.
Always aiming to inform, engage, and leave you with something to ponder.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep exploring the world around you.